Welcome back to another session on mathematical modeling. We will continue with our discussion on epidemic models. Epidemic models part 2. Once we have understood the basic SIR model, it is not hard to make modifications to produce models that might be more appropriate for other diseases. Here, we will consider two basic variations that capture different dynamical behavior for diseases with different characteristics. We will also consider modeling large populations by tracking fractions of populations in each class rather than absolute numbers. The SI and SIS models. For some infectious diseases, there is no removed class. For instance, it might be that infective individuals simply cannot recover. This leads to the SI model, that is, susceptibles moves to infectives. The SI model assumes that S plus I is equal to N and that once individuals enter the infective class, they remain there for the duration of the model. For example, the spread of head lice in a human population with no means of effective treatment would fit the SI framework. The equations for the SI model are St plus 1 is equal to St minus alpha into St it and It plus 1 is equal to It plus alpha into St it. Another way there could be no removed class is if once infectives recover, they are again at risk for contracting the disease. Since recovering from many diseases does not confer immunity on the former sufferer, an SIS model in which individuals pass from the infective class back into the susceptible class gives a more appropriate description of them. Syphilis or gonorrhea, for example, can be treated with antibiotics, but a patient once cured may become reinfected. The common cold is a disease that most of us get repeatedly. Schematically, the SIS model is susceptibles move to infectives and infectives move back to susceptibles, and its equations are St plus 1 is equal to St minus alpha St it plus gamma into it and It plus 1 is equal to It plus alpha St it minus gamma into it. Now, we will move on to contact rate and contact number. Infectious disease models are often formulated a bit differently, using proportions of the population instead of absolute numbers. For large populations in particular, this may be a natural approach because the precise size of the population may not be known or even really matter. Such a formulation also allows us to replace the transmission coefficient alpha with a new parameter that has a more meaningful biological interpretation. Working with the SIR model as an example, let us set small s is equal to capital S by n, small I is equal to capital I by n and small r is equal to capital R by n, and rebuild the model using proportions. So, now we have small s plus small I plus small r is equal to 1 because we are measuring fractions of the population. We will continue to assume there are no births or immigration, so that the total population size n remains constant, even though n will not appear in our equations. In this setting, as in the SIR model, lead to formulas for delta small s, delta small I and delta small r, the change in proportions of the three classes. The small SIR equations are delta small s is equal to minus beta into small st into small it, delta small I is equal to beta into small st into small it minus gamma into small it, and delta r is equal to gamma into small it, where beta is called the contact rate. Before we explain the interpretation of beta, we should note that if we use an small SIR model and want to introduce a specific total population size n, we can recover SIR data by simply multiplying the small SIR formulas by n. For example, the net change in number of susceptibles is delta S is equal to delta small s into n, which is equal to minus beta into small s into I n, that is equal to minus beta I into S n, which is equal to minus beta I into capital S. Let us try to understand the equation delta S is equal to minus beta I into S more fully. By the term contact, we will mean an interaction between individuals that is sufficient for disease transmission. As infectious disease spreads to a susceptible only from contact with an infective, not from contact with a healthy or immune individual, the factor beta I in the equation must give the average number of contacts an individual has with infectives during a single time step. Because small I denotes the fraction of the population in the infective class, we can interpret beta as the average number of contacts that an individual has during the single time step. This means beta measures contacts between anyone, whether infective or not, that would have caused an infection if one of the individuals was infective and the other susceptible. The contact rate beta is defined as the average number of contacts an individual experiences during one time step. Then beta into I represents the average number of contacts with infectives that an individual experiences in a single time step. To get the number of susceptibles that fall ill from contact with infectives during a single time step, we multiply by the number of susceptibles capital S and obtain the expression beta into I into S. The value of beta of course depends on the particulars of the disease under study. For example, because chickenpox is highly contagious, it seems plausible that an elementary school child might have contact sufficient to spread chickenpox with 4 other children throughout the course of a day. In this case, we would take beta is equal to 4 and delta t is equal to 1 day. For a less contagious disease, beta might be a small number such as 0.02. Another important value is the contact number sigma, the average number of contacts of a typical infective during the entire infectious period. This is a per infective measurement. For the small SIR model discussed, we multiply the contact rate beta by the mean infectious period 1 by gamma to find sigma is equal to beta by gamma. The contact number sigma is closely related to the basic reproduction number R naught. Both are measures of the number of secondary cases of illness produced by one infective introduced into wholly susceptible population. Now, we will see the immunization strategies. A population can be protected from disease in many ways. For example, the number of susceptible individuals can be reduced through immunizations, the contact rate can be reduced through quarantines or public health campaigns, or the removal rate can be increased through better medical treatment of the sick. In short, a society might try to change any of the parameters or initial conditions of the model describing the disease. Vaccinations, when available, are an attractive way to control disease dynamics, but the private and public risks of immunization must be balanced. One of the main goals of any immunization program is to achieve herd immunity, that is, to ensure that no epidemic can take place even if a few cases of the disease are present. Before public health policy is set, the likely outcome of proposed vaccination programs must be well understood so that trade-offs in terms of public and private good can be weighed. Thus, estimating what level of vaccination confers herd immunity for a particular disease in a particular society is an essential first step. As an example, consider a large population at risk for a disease modeled well by the small SIR equations. We would like to ensure that regardless of the size small I naught of the fraction of the population that was infective, small it never increases. Thus, we want delta small I is equal to beta into small st into small it minus gamma into small it less than 0. But beta into STIT minus gamma IT, which is equal to beta ST minus gamma into IT, and since IT is greater than or equal to 0, this means we want beta ST minus gamma less than 0 or St less than gamma by beta, which is equal to 1 by sigma. In other words, 1 by sigma is the threshold value determining whether disease spreads. If the fraction of the population that is susceptible can be brought below 1 by sigma, then an epidemic cannot occur. The fraction of the population that must be vaccinated successfully to ensure herd immunity is thus 1 minus 1 by sigma. Of course, using this result for a disease in the real world requires estimating sigma from epidemiological data. Because of uncertainties, it would also be wise to aim for immunizing a large fraction of the population. Whether such a goal is achievable depends only on many social and economic factors, but the model identifies the target. Studying realistic immunization issues requires using more complicated models. Disease dynamics often are different among different age and social groups, and so often each of the small s, small I and small r groups must be broken into subgroups. A model might break the population into several groups by age, sex or other factors and be used to determine which groups should be targeted in an immunization campaign. Multiple populations and differentiated infectivity. Although the basic models such as the SIR, SI and SIS provide good starts at describing disease transmission, they are not elaborate enough to capture key dynamical features of many real infectious diseases. The simple versions of these models do not take into account such things as one's age, sex, socio-economic classes, medical history or other characteristics that may affect the likelihood of infection, time of infectivity or transmission mechanisms. For example, the elderly and the weak are particularly susceptible to influenza. Intravenous drug users are at increased risk for a number of diseases due to their behavior. Some individuals seem to have a higher resistance to the HIV infection than others. To capture such factors in modeling disease dynamics, we need to consider several subpopulations and different parameter values for these subpopulations using differentiated infectivity models. Sexually transmitted disease in particular generally requires such models because even the simplest model of heterosexual transmission requires considering subpopulations of males and females. We will develop such a model by studying the dynamics of gonorrhea. To begin modeling gonorrhea, we divide the human population into two groups, females and males. Within the two groups, we have two subclasses, susceptible females denoted by STF and infective females denoted by ITF, and susceptible males STM and infective males ITM. Because gonorrhea is curable, but the treatment offers no immunity from further infection, there are no removed classes. As before, we will assume that populations remain constant, that is, SF plus IF is equal to NF and SM plus IM is equal to NM, and the total population under study is N is equal to NF plus NM. If we assume for modeling purposes that gonorrhea is only spread through heterosexual contact, then we will need a transmission coefficient alpha f to measure the rate at which gonorrhea is spread from men to women and a transmission coefficient alpha m for the spread from women to men. Similarly, this model requires two removal rates gamma f and gamma m, one for each sex. We will use a two population variant of the SIS model to describe the spread of gonorrhea, that is given by the set of equations delta SF is equal to minus alpha f STF ITM plus gamma f ITF, delta IF is equal to alpha f STF ITM minus gamma f ITF, and similarly for males delta SM is equal to minus alpha m STM ITF plus gamma m ITM, and delta IM is equal to alpha m STM ITF minus gamma m ITM. With 4 equations specifying our model, it seems too complicated for easy analysis. How we can define such things as a meaningful basic reproduction number R naught is not clear. We can simplify our analysis of the model by noting that since the population sizes NF and NM are constant, knowing the sizes of the infective classes is enough to determine the sizes of the susceptible classes. Thus, we will substitute STF is equal to NF minus ITF and STM is equal to NM minus ITM to get delta IF is equal to alpha F STF ITM minus gamma F ITF, which is equal to alpha F into NF minus ITF into ITM minus gamma F ITF, and delta IM is equal to alpha M STM ITF minus gamma M ITM, which is equal to alpha M into NM minus ITM into ITF minus gamma M into ITM. Now, our model needs only to track the sizes of the 2 infective classes. Lots of different scenarios are possible with this model. For instance, we will find that it is possible for delta IF greater than 0 while delta IM less than 0. That is, the female population experiences an epidemic as the disease decreases among males. Of course, if IF increases, we might expect that after some time IM would increase too. A bit later, we might have delta IF less than 0 and delta IM greater than 0. Some cyclical behavior in the size of the infective classes is possible. In fact, though this SIS model usually moves toward equilibrium quickly. Note that the existence of only one non-zero equilibrium shows there is at most one endemic level of the disease. This level also depends only on the sizes of the male and female populations and the respective relative removal rate for them, but not on the initial number of infectives. Increasing the relative removal rates is the way that these endemic levels can be decreased. The precise formulas allow prediction of the endemic level expected from any relative removal rate a public health program might achieve. Let us examine the non-zero equilibrium state more closely. For the values of IF and IM to make sense biologically, we must have NF into NM minus rho F into rho M is greater than 0, because we cannot have a negative number of infectives. In fact, this turns out to be a good test to see if a disease is endemic. If NF into NM minus rho F into rho M is positive, then our model predicts that gonorrhea or a different disease modeled with this 2 population SIS model may always be present in the society. Thus, data collection for statistical estimates of the infection and removal rates can help judge whether a disease is likely to remain endemic. Indeed, with some algebra, we can squeeze out a good interpretation of the inequality NF into NM minus rho F into rho M greater than 0. We will rewrite it as NF into NM by rho F into rho M greater than 1 and factor to get NF by rho F into NM by rho M greater than 1. Notice the similarity between NF by rho F is equal to alpha F by gamma F NF, and the basic reproduction number R naught is equal to S naught by rho, which is equal to alpha by gamma into S naught from the 1 population SIR model. If the female population were wholly susceptible to gonorrhea, that is, if STF is equal to NF, then NF by rho F is equal to alpha F by gamma F into NF would give the average number of infective female time steps caused by an infective male during a single time step. A similar interpretation holds for NM by rho M. Indeed, because it is rarely the case that NF is equal to SF, the value of NF by rho F is equal to sigma F into NF gives a maximum for this number. We call the quantities NF by rho F and Nm by rho m the maximal male contact number and the maximal female contact number. In fact, our analysis above indicates that if both Nf by rho f is greater than 1 and Nm by rho m is greater than 1, then the product Nf by rho f into Nm by rho m is greater than 1, and the disease has an endemic equilibrium state. This property, similar to the relationship between epidemics and R naught for the basic SIR model, makes it tempting to refer to these quantities as reproduction numbers. Keep in mind, however, that it is at least mathematically possible for one of the maximal contact numbers to be less than 1 and the disease still to have an endemic equilibrium. With this, we have completed our discussion on the topic epidemic models. Before we conclude, let us summarize what we have learned in this session. We started our discussion with the SI and SIS models. We also have seen how to model large populations by tracking fractions of populations in each class. We have also seen the dynamical features of real infectious disease by discussing a sexually transmitted disease. Now, let us discuss a few exercise problems to test your knowledge on the topic. First problem: for the SIR model, the threshold value rho plays an important role. Is there an analogous threshold value for the SI model? If so, find it. If not, explain why there is not. Is there an analogous threshold value for the SIS model? If so, find it, or if not, explain why there is not. Second problem: suppose a disease is modeled well by the SI framework. Explain how new medical developments might make the model invalid so that either an SIS or SIR model would be needed instead. Third problem: for the SIR model, we saw that rho is equal to gamma by alpha was a threshold value for S naught, determining whether an epidemic would occur or not. What is the analogous threshold value for small s naught in the small SIR model? Explain your reasoning. Fourth one: suppose when modeling a heterosexually transmitted disease, you find that alpha f is equal to 0.011, alpha m is equal to 0.00023, gamma f is equal to 0.5 and gamma m is equal to 0.2. If the time step is 1 day, what are the characteristics of this disease? Include a discussion of the meaning of the transmission coefficients and removal rates for each sex. Suppose the population is fixed with 500 people, 100 females and 400 males. Calculate the maximal female and male contact numbers. Can the disease be endemic? Explain. What if instead there are 50 females and 450 males, or if the population is evenly divided, that is 250 females and 250 males? These are some books for further reading. First one: Modules in Applied Mathematics Volume 4, Life Science Models by H.M. Roberts and M. Thompson, Springer Verlag 1982. Second one: Mathematical Modeling in Biology and Introduction by Elizabeth S. Allman and John A. Rhodes. Third one: Mathematical Biology Lecture Notes by Jeffrey R. Kasner. Fourth one: Mathematical Modeling Lecture Notes by Jeff S. McGaw. And fifth one: Mathematical Modeling Lecture Notes by David C. Dobson. With this, we come to an end of this session. We will continue with mathematical modeling in another session. Till then, goodbye.